Revising the Endangered Species Act. The Endangered Species Act was created in 1973 as a way to conserve both threatened and endangered species along with their habitats. Timothy Tier and his colleagues believe that the Endangered Species Act, or ESA, is a valuable and necessary tool in our efforts to conserve biodiversity because it is a safety net for those species in danger of extinction. However, revision of the ESA is an obvious necessity, as the past years have provided numerous critics who are not afraid to argue that the Act has failed to reach its goals, specifically in implementation through recovery plans. Although, according to Taylor, Suckling, and Ryszlinski, it is much more than just the recovery plans that need work. They argue that, while listing species on the ESA and designating critical habitat, using dedicated recovery plans, and regulating take can all increase survival and recovery over time, there are still many faults in the Act. For instance, on top of many recovery plans being less than satisfactory, endangered species are showing less recovery time than threatened species, and many plans are now being used to target multiple species, a big mistake in the eyes of Taylor and his colleagues. For them, revising the Endangered Species Act would be an easy fix, as they claim that the ESA is effective and can be improved by prompt listing, protection of critical habitat, and dedicated recovery plans. Harvey et al., authors of Recovery Plan Revisions, Progress or Due Process, seem convinced that keeping up on revisions within individual recovery plans themselves is the key to the ESA's success. Revision allows the recovery plan's process for threatened and endangered species to be flexible and responsive to new information or changes in the status of a species. Unfortunately, the ESA has not designated any clear guidelines on when or how recovery plans should be revised, creating a massive issue for some species who desperately need more attention. No matter which aspects of the ESA are truly in need of the most revision, it is safe to say that the ESA has not been as successful as it was originally intended. Although the Act was initiated in 1973, 40 years ago, it has not been showing the type of results needed in order to successfully conserve all species and prevent many from going extinct. Brown and Sjogren's 1998 publishing of Economics of the Endangered Species Act exposed the list of almost 200 individual species, complete with proof of their need to be designated as either threatened or endangered, who had yet to be listed due to a lack of sufficient funding. At that point, the ESA budget only allowed for a listing rate of approximately 100 species per year, leaving yet another list of 3,600 species whose ability to be listed was designated as indefinite due to inadequate funding for such a large amount of species to be conserved, but blamed instead on a lack of certainty that these species needed to be protected. As long ago as 1993, Harvard biologist E. O. Wilson estimated that Earth is currently losing something on the order of 30,000 species per year, which breaks down to the even more daunting statistic of some 3 species per hour. This statistic shows that, even after 20 years of the Endangered Species Act being up and running, the environment was still illustrating the disastrous effects of human presence via loss in not only species population sizes, but in species themselves. To think that another 20 years has passed since these statistics were valid is to accept the fact that the rate of human population increase is now higher than ever, which correlates positively with an increase in habitat destruction and also with species extinction. Even in the generous assumption that the rate of species lost per year has not grown from 30,000, the ESA must still take responsibility for many of the species it could be saving annually by listing them as either endangered or threatened. Nevertheless, even with the areas that need vast improvement, the ESA still succeeds in protecting a considerable amount of species from being further depleted. Daniel J. Rolfe, author of 6 Biological Reasons Why the Endangered Species Act Doesn't Work and What to Do About It, argues that, despite its downfalls, the Endangered Species Act remains the United States' strongest and most comprehensive species conservation strategy, as well as model for other nations' protection efforts. So with a little revision, perhaps the ESA can begin working on its original goal, the intention to save all species.